Welcome back to Inspector Toolbelt Talk, everyone. Today on our show, we have Istvan Zsako. Did I say that right, Istvan?
Yes, you did, Ian. Thanks for
Hey,
having me.
yeah, thanks for being here. I'm proud that I got your name right, and I'm really glad that you're on the show with us today. So maybe there's some out there that don't know who you are. So maybe, Istvan, you could tell us a little bit about yourself to kind of introduce who you are, and then we'll talk a little bit about our subject and why that matters to us.
Excellent. Thank you, Ian. My name is Istvan Zsako. I own a home inspection business in the state of New Mexico. We cover central and northern New Mexico, as well as I'm also an entrepreneur. I love seeing opportunity and learning how to seize that opportunity, as well as being able to leverage the things that I already have access to. So it's kind of one of those things I really enjoy. I also do speaking. I've written a book and co-authored two other books. And I'm always looking for the next adventure as well. So there's a bunch of things I still have yet to do on my bucket list.
Nice. And Istvan, you're being modest as well. You have a fairly large inspection business, don't you? You have a
Uh, it
multi-inspector firm.
it is a multi-inspector firm, thank you, and it became the largest inspection company in the state of New Mexico about 3 years ago, and we've been able to hold that so far. The market's been a little set back the way it's going, but we're gonna keep moving forward through it, and I got a whole team. We got administration. We got our office. We own two different offices, one in Albuquerque, one in Santa Fe, and we got two teams of inspectors that are in each market, as well as separate team for all of our ancillary services. So they're done by different technicians that just focus on specializing on sewer, radon, and mold.
Nice. That's awesome. And I love that they specialize because I've always said you should have people that specialize on your team because it
Yeah.
helps you to be able to expand and has a lot of other benefits. But I have to give a shout out to Coy Bradstreet from BPI Inspections. I was talking with him one day, and he's like, "You don't know Istvan? Oh, you got to meet Istvan." And I'm like, "Okay, I got to meet this guy." And I liked it from the instant that we talked that day. And you have an interesting story too. I don't know why this came up in conversation, but Istvan is like, this guy owns the biggest home inspection company in New Mexico. He used to be homeless and then he became this and he grew multiple companies. I'm like, man, this guy has a story. Is that true?
That is true. At 16, living at home was rough, and we all have our story. We all go through our own things. There's no comparing one person worse or more than the other. It's what we go through. And at that time, I needed something to change, or I felt like I was just gonna, I was becoming a suicidal teenager. I thought, it's either going to end or I need to get out. And
Mm.
I decided to pack up all my stuff and just go figure it out. So I kind of on my own decided to become homeless just to get out of a situation. And I didn't know what to do, but something had to change. And I just took that leap. And there's a lot of interesting things that happen along the way. And at a certain point, thinking money was going to be the answer, money would make everything better. It really didn't. And I'm glad to experience that. I started making, 10 times more than I needed to live on at that time. And I was unfulfilled. And what really changed my life was, not being angry and blaming everybody else for the life that I had, because that's what was keeping me where I was at. It was a really bad mindset, and it was angry. I was pissed off, so many different things. And once I found peace, it changed so many things. And not only was I homeless at 16, off and on here and there, but once I hit 21, I had all the jobs, I had the money, I had a nice apartment, I had so many nice things, and I packed it all up and left with debts to my name and $35 in my pocket and decided to go camping. And that camping lasted 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you really camped 7 years? So 21 to
Yeah.
28 years old? Okay.
Yeah. And I had dreadlocks at the bottom of my back at the end of that journey. And when I did cut the dreadlocks off, I saved them. But at a certain point at the end of my journey, I was like, the dreadlocks were becoming like part of my identity. Like if I went into a coffee shop or something, it probably took about 30 minutes and somebody wanted to take me for a walk and get me stoned or something. I mean, just, there were certain people that were attracted to me because of that going on, the crazy beard. And I realized that that's not my identity. Like that's not who I am, but that's how people see me. So I cut them all off. I did save them as part of my story. You know, I knew I didn't want people to say, "Nah, you're making up." Oh no, I have them. They're about, you know, almost 3 feet long. They're really there. And it was interesting. I went to certain places afterwards, and I became invisible to certain cliques and groups, and it was a lot of, you know, discovering who am I. And those 7 years were a lot of that self-discovery, which I really enjoyed and look back on all the time and smile and laugh about.
Well, for those of you who are listening and not watching the video rendition of this podcast, I can't picture that, Istvan. I'm looking at you in your nice, neat blue button-up shirt and neat hair and trimmed goatee, and I'm trying to picture you in dreadlocks. And wow. So then you became a contractor at some point, and then you became a home inspector at another point.
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of off and on work, handyman, odd stuff during my travels to get by, you know, because at some point you got to go into town, hit a food bank, get some money, put some gas in the tank, whatever, and go back out and do nothing. But when I started settling down, I went back into construction. And then one day, a buddy of mine approached me and he said, "Would you like to become a home inspector?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Do you know what it is?" I said, "No, but I want to be one." I was like, I was at that point where I was doing construction and I had a crew under me, and I kept asking myself, well, what's the next thing? You know, what's the next thing? Because, you know, we can get very comfortable where we can almost become complacent sometimes, just where this works. But I'm always been like, well, what's the next thing? And I was wondering, and when home inspection came my way, I was just like, yeah, I want to know what it is. I'm open to it. My buddy was retiring and he just felt like it was an opportunity he wanted to pass on to somebody before he officially, you know, hung up his hat. And he wasn't
Mhm.
really doing much jobs at that point. He wasn't marketing. It was, it was turning to a rare thing. He was trying to get somebody else to, you know, carry the baton so it didn't just die at him. And he told me the things that I had to have ready. He wanted me to have some sort of training. So he wasn't trained from the ground up, insurance, a name, registered, boom, bang, everything. And within 30 days, it was all done. I was like, let's go. Like I jumped on the opportunity.
Wow. So, and then obviously the rest is history because now you have the largest inspection company in New Mexico. And I would imagine if that's the case, then obviously one of the largest independently owned companies in the country. So that's really impressive. You also have a book, and maybe we'll put a link in the transcript. I noticed you could buy it on Amazon, correct? What was the title of the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah, you can. You can go to Amazon.com and order it. It's The Victory Mindset, a life of disadvantage transformed into a life of endless opportunity. And it was that kid, you know, at 16, sleeping on the streets, trying to figure it out and believing that I was destined to just suffer and fail and everything else because my family, because my relationships, because everything else, to what I learned along the way, the people that I met, the things that I learned from them. You know, a lot of them didn't even realize that they were mentoring me. Some maybe did. I don't know. But looking back, I learned so much from these people, and then self-reflection as well, that has gotten me out of that mindset that I was going to suffer and realize that I was blaming other people and other excuses, other circumstances outside of myself that were keeping me stuck where I was. And once I realized that, I was able to break free from it and then discover who I am and what I want and start going after it and not using an excuse or anything, not letting anything get in my way. Actually, when people say you can't do it, it's just more like, really? Let me show you. Like, I think I can.
You know, and that's mindset, that book you just told us about, and that idea of changing your mindset. That's what drew me to wanting to have you on the show. I see that a lot with home inspectors and people in general. We start a business and it's a little harder than we think, or we hit some, speed bumps in the road. And one particular guy comes to my mind, and I just remember him talking about, oh, if I only had this that this guy had, or if I didn't have this background, or if I only had this, and I just said at some point, you got what you got, man. Let's work with it. And it happened around the same time that I found out about you, just a week or two ago, and I'm like, all right, maybe the industry needs to hear how changing our mindset can help us as home inspectors and business owners. And before we get into that, because I'd really love to get your opinion on how changing our mindset can help us to grow our inspection business. You also do a couple of other things, correct, for the inspection industry, like sewer camera training and some other some other services, right?
I do. At a certain point, I had started offering sewer camera inspections, and a lot of companies I networked with were saying, "Hey, could I fly out and spend 1 or 2 days with you and go on a couple jobs to see how it's done?" I said, "Sure." And I had gotten a training myself through another venue that I felt like after the training, I had so many questions. All the videos were just clean PVC talking about issues, but I didn't really get to know what they looked like. I knew there was other pipes out there. Nobody talked about them. And as people were coming to visit me and do ride-alongs, I realized, there's a need for this. And I think, I felt like I could deliver something that was going to be more informative and more prepare inspectors for what they need to do than the one that I got. So I started sewer camera training. And we do the whole training, get everybody familiar with the pipes, the different issues, how to do videos, reporting styles, common issues, different types of pipe, pretty much just about everything they'll need to know. And then even cover a little bit of marketing too, to get agents to be educated and start informing their clients. So they actually start marketing for you and the service just takes off. And I've had so many clients go through the training that they just hit the floor running and it's just helped their business. And not only is it about the money, it's about they're helping people now understand what they're getting that nobody can see. It's underground and sewer lines can be expensive. On that national average, about 8 to 10,000 and some could be 15, 20,000 to replace. And that would hurt a brand new, home buyer. So I started doing that. And then I also, during the pandemic, marketing had to change, had to shift, and all the people that shifted did okay. The ones that didn't kind of struggled along. And what I started doing is an automated email marketing program that goes after building relationships with your agents. So new agents, like new listing agents, new buyers agents that are coming into interacting with your company. It's just following up with them. And it does a lot more than that too. I mean, phone call reminders, postcards, and just so much more. And we custom build stuff too for our clients as well. So those are some things that I do as well that have helped me as a home inspection business owner and that we are helping other companies with as well grow their business.
Well, both of those services I can speak highly of because there's nothing like hands-on training when it comes to especially sewer scope. I thought I knew sewer scope, and then I worked with, actually, he was another guest on our show, Jay Wynn. I'm just like, man, I don't know sewer scope compared to you. Working with somebody who knows really teaches us more than we can really predict that it will teach us. Then also, Coy speaks very highly of your campaigns. So retargeting agents and relationship building with them, that's an important part of our business. So that's fantastic. So if anyone's interested, would they contact you, Istvan?
Yeah, they can contact me. I can leave you information for them as well. But there's a topofmindcampaigns.com or tomcampaigns.com. Both go there. There's more information if they want to check that out. And then the sewertraining.com for the sewer camera training. So sewertraining.com.
Perfect. And we'll have links to that and all the transcripts here. But now I really liked how you started off the podcast by talking about how you made a whole bunch of money and that didn't bring you happiness. And I'd like to emphasize that because that's refreshing to me because a lot of times we think of a successful business as, man, we make tons of money, but you're working 16 hours a day, you're divorced, your kids are alienated from you, not that everybody ends live. I like to work. I'm kind of a workaholic, but we're growing our business and having a successful business and all that, we want to meter that. We want to have balance with it. So I do like that point that you made. But why is your mindset important when it comes to growing your business and being happy with it? Why is that so important?
Yeah, well, there's so many different angles. And, one that I would like to point out that was what led me to, making all that money, but feeling unfulfilled, which means I wasn't successful because successful is really more about a place that you get to where you're really happy with your life and you have a good balance and you have what you need. And, one of the things was really having a purpose. That's one of the things that people miss. They'll go into business and I want to have business because I want to work for myself. I want to go into business because I want to set my own schedule. Yeah, right. Your clients set your schedule. There's all these things people go into business, but once they get into it and then they actually start getting busy where they've actually created a demand for their product or service, then they're just overwhelmed and they're caught up in the business. And now the business is kind of running their life. And that's where, the money doesn't bring the happiness. And if you don't have a purpose or you lose your purpose along the way, it becomes a job. It becomes work. It's no longer a passion. And for myself, I have a vision. My vision goes out 10, 20 years, different parts of it. And today, the things that I'm doing today are part of getting me to where I'm going. And I'm very excited about it. Even when I have a long day and it was exhausting, I'm just like, man, I don't feel like, oh, today was so hard, because my mindset is these things line up with what I'm trying to do. Like my subconscious programming, the things that I believe in, it lines up with. So I'm pumped. I might be physically beat, but I'm like mentally, I'm just like, wow, it was a really good day. I got a lot of stuff done. And it was that mindset. It was that perspective, of what I'm building for my family, for my wife, for our future, so that we can travel and be missionaries and be self-funded and be able to actually do what we want. So, that mindset is really huge. What do you want? What are you going after? If you want to be one single man operation, cool. If you want to be six, you want to be, start scaling, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. It doesn't matter what it is, but have an idea of what it is and why you're doing it and that purpose. So as you're going through it, it's not about just money. You don't get lost in the little things and just hate it. I've seen some business owners that are just, they're struggling with things or the way the market's going and everything's, they're just like, they've been so focused on growth that right now they're not experiencing growth and they're just stressing out and losing that focus. So, the first thing for me that I would say is really having a purpose and being very clear about what that is. What is your vision for why you're doing any of it? Because if you don't have that, you could do some amazing things, but at the end, it will have meant nothing because it didn't really have a purpose to fulfill.
I can speak to that a little bit. I've especially in my home inspection business, because there's a lot of emotions when people are buying houses, and it can be exhausting at times. We have a podcast about how to beat inspector burnout, but if we love what we do, we don't work a day in our lives. So I can think back to the times that I've burned out the most in my inspection businesses is typically when I focus on, okay, next day inspections, next day inspections. How do we get more inspections? And, should we raise prices for inspections? And should we do these extra inspections instead of stepping back and taking the 10,000 mile high view and saying, okay, why am I doing this? So what are some other good examples of purpose that home inspectors can have? Like in the home inspectors that you work with, what do you find being some purposes that keep people going besides just the inspections and just the bottom line?
Find like what I love that I've been growing on more and more is supporting things that I believe in and letting my business fund those things. As being a homeless teenager, I love it when I have the opportunity to connect with one of the companies here in Santa Fe that, it's a nonprofit that is helping people that are experiencing that are homeless teenagers or having challenging times or coming out of a family where they're not getting the support they need and be able to support other things within the own community. I really love that. Finding out what realtors are in, the people that, are giving us the referrals, what do they like to serve and how can I help you serve that purpose? That's a huge angle that not only benefits me as in, what I get to do for my own community, but it helps serve the people that I'm asking for the referrals for. I'm going, hey, I'd like for you to refer my company, but I'm also going to support you and the things that you do. So it has multiple benefits at the same time, plus the people that those nonprofits are helping. So we're helping those people. So, big thing is like, how do we continue to do what we're doing and give back? Like coaching or talking to other business owners. That's another one that I love talking with business owners. Because one of the biggest things that I didn't know and I still don't know is I don't know what I don't know, and it's like, it sounds funny, but it's so true. Once I started learning and now I realize that most people are struggling from a lack of knowledge. And there's some, if there's something you've learned, something you've overcome, something you've done within your business, there's probably other business owners who would love to hear about it and hear about your success stories and how you did that and your personal successes as well. Like, perfect example like this, I wanted to share what I had done and lots of times people see people in a place of success and think, well, they got there because of their family. They got there because of marriage. They got there because of whatever it is. Even just when I say, somebody helped me get into the home inspection industry, I've had people say, well, you took over somebody else's company. No, I really, the phone was not ringing when we started training together. I had to get the phone ringing, and he did help me a little, which is nice. I do acknowledge there was somebody there to help encourage and push and train me, but there's like, you don't know what you don't know. So being able to learn that, do it well, and then take it and share it with other people, that to me is powerful. And it's also on top of, when you learn something, you do it. But to really master it is to teach it.
That's an interesting way to express that. When you master it, you teach it. Because a lot of times, in the home inspection industry, everybody wants to sell us. We'll show you this or we'll show you that. We'll teach you how to grow your business to 1,000,000 miles high. But we need to come to the point where maybe we're the ones that could teach it. But how does changing our mindset get to that? So your mindset is,
Mm.
I want to share this information with people. I want to help them. What if we are the person at the bottom of that equation? I don't know anything. I need the help. How does changing our mindset help us to come from the bottom up to the top?
That's a that's a great question and a beautiful topic. A lot of things we don't realize we have a lot of programming in us, from the things that happened to us, the way our families were, maybe even people that we respected growing up that poured into us, like how much bad financial advice do we always get from people who can't manage their finances, but they always want to freely give all this financial advice, but we have programming. And then there's the things that are more traumatic within our past too, being that kid that was struggling. That was something I had to overcome. And these things become limitations in our life, you know, and if they hold us back, we often don't realize that there are things that we want. We'll say it like mentally, I know I want that. I want to make more money. I want to take more travel. I want to go on vacation. But yet something deep down inside of us, there's a little bit of programming that we may not feel like deserving of it, or
Hmm.
we may not feel capable of ever accomplishing that. And we have to dig down and start reprogramming. Because if we want our business to grow, we have to grow. If we don't grow, our business will cap out because we only have so much to bring to the table. And that mindset, if you're like in a stuck or a fixed mindset where this is who I am, this is the kind of person I am, this is how I am, those are fixed mindsets that are not allowing you to be open to who you can become or who you've been called and destined to become, the things that you can do. So for myself, it was breaking through a lot of those ideas that maybe I couldn't really have $1 million, business or a multi-million dollar business. It just, I couldn't see it happening to me until I allowed myself to be open to the possibilities and start breaking away from these ideas of who I am or what I thought I was capable of. Because I feel all of us are capable of great things and we don't know how great, but we have to let go of who we think we are right now to be able to seek out the person that we have the potential to become.
Okay,
So that
so I think we're getting into the juicy part of the watermelon here. I like what you're saying. So I find that too about a lot of home inspectors. I'll have guys call me. One guy in particular stands out. He was out on the West Coast, and he said to me, "I don't know if I can do this." I'm like, "If you don't know if you can do this, you need to change your attitude because you need to walk into these houses and into offices and with people and say, 'I rock, and this is why, and this is what I'm going to do.'" And he kept
Mhm.
hemming and hawing, and finally he gave up. Like it was just like he was stuck in his own mind of, "Nah, I can't do this. I just," or the most common thing is guys not charging enough for their time. I'm only worth $199 for this inspection instead of 500. You know, or I'm only worth 350 instead of 800. You know, do you find that we tend to undervalue ourselves? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
that's one of them. If I don't feel that, I deserve to get paid 100,000 a year or 200,000 or 300,000, which I've talked to people and they're just like, oh, 100,000, that would be more than I could, I don't need more than that. So I'd be fine at 100,000. There's a perspective where they actually aren't allowing themselves to have more. And to even just challenge that, like, well, I don't need more than 100,000. Okay, well, stop being selfish and thinking about yourself. How much money do you need to live? That's one conversation, but how many people could you help if you made 150,000? How many people could you help if you made 200,000, 250,000, 300,000? Maybe you only need 100,000 and you give away the other 100,000. Like, there's the possibilities of like what we can do that are beyond ourselves, but lots of times we are self-absorbed with ourselves, and yet we call other people who are going after things and going big as being selfish or all absorbed about money. But not always. A lot of the people that I found that have reached success and have acquired wealth, they're usually giving back and doing other things that if I only make 50,000 a year, which means I just pay my mortgage and my car insurance and put food on the table, I have nothing left to bring to the table to give to other people to help. And once again, it's just a matter of perspective, right? Where's our mindset? Are we really thinking big? Are we allowing ourselves to dream and see what all the options are? Or are we just fixed on just this, little box where if everything in the box is okay, then I'm okay, instead of how big can we go? And that's just back to that mindset.
Okay. So I guess rolling back to my question is, I don't want it to be a reductive comment of saying, oh, it's just a matter of undervaluing ourselves, but how do we how do we avoid the risk of overvaluing ourselves? Because you said we don't know what we don't know.
Mm.
So we could be sitting here being like, you know what? I am going to own $1 million business. We've never done construction, so we don't know about a house. We don't have a business plan, so we don't know about business, and we're just going to rush in head first. And that's, there's a million haikus about that, and basically, only an idiot thinks more of himself and rushes in. So how do we balance that?
I love that. That's a great question. And I think it comes back to that, having that purpose. What is your mission statement? Look at businesses, big businesses. They always have a mission statement, something that they're trying to accomplish, somebody they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help, something, a way they're trying to change the world. And that becomes a foundation for what you're doing. Like for myself, I don't think money is evil or in any way corrupts people. It only amplifies what's in the person. So on the side of, too much, too successful, too big, if there's a fear of that, I think you need to evaluate somebody would need to evaluate theirself and be like, well, why am I doing it? Back to that cause and that purpose. Because yeah, if I don't have a really clear purpose on it, I can go make a lot of money. And I've seen people make a lot of money, have one bad year, and they lose everything. They didn't really have a purpose. They weren't helping other people. They weren't putting aside money for the future. They weren't investing. They weren't taking advantage of all the opportunities that there are when you start becoming successful. Doors start opening all sorts of places that are amazing. I mean, I've had people call me who say, they want to talk about something that they want to work with. And I'm like, awesome. Like they called me, somebody asked me to buy into a business, a company that we own now, and just said, I could buy it by myself, but I'd probably always be a mom and pa. If you joined in with me, I think we could scale it, do something bigger. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what it is, and it opportunity starts presenting itself. But I think we have to be very clear about what we're doing. If we don't know why we want to have $1 million business, I think we should sit down and figure out why we want it before we figure out how to get there. Because the why is so much more powerful than the how.
I
And I
think,
like the one of my coaches said it, you put the why and the how together and you get wow. So
or you get Howie.
yeah.
Sorry, I always have to insert a dad joke somewhere. But just to go along with what you're saying, I guess it kind of comes down to, I think about one of the Rocky movies. Rocky wanted to go have that big fight. He wanted to win the belt. If he didn't have that purpose, if he couldn't put that down on paper, then he's just some dude drinking raw eggs and running around town with a couple of bricks in his hands. That gets old really quick. So we have to understand our why. And I think writing down a mission statement is important. A lot of guys will send me mission statements for their websites, and it's kind of funny. Some of them are so generic. It's like they copied them off of a website. They're like, oh, this sounded good. It's like, oh, okay, is that Rocky preparing for the fight, or are you just some dude running around with bricks in your hands drinking raw eggs? That's kind of what it comes down to. But some guys will give me something very meaningful. Like, this is for my family, so I can spend more time with them. This is for my dad. This is for, my family's future. Those are the guys that, to be perfectly honest, tend to do a little bit better because they're driven. And I think that is a kind of maybe your point of um, we don't want to overvalue ourselves, but it gives us at least purpose so that we can reach for those goals. Is that kind of what you're saying? I'm just trying to wrap my
Yeah.
small brain around it.
Yeah. No, no, no. I like the recap there. And yeah, it's, when we serve something other than ourselves,
Mm.
it's so much more fulfilling. I, at least for myself, I can speak for myself, and serving your family, serving your clients, serving the people that are around you. I have an amazing, well, now a couple of amazing teams that I get to work with within the companies that I own, and getting to serve them. It's amazing, and it gives me, it's not what gives me the purpose, but it gives me so much drive to continue to help and develop them, and be able to give back and pour back. But what you were saying about the mission statement, all that's, it's part of your vision, right? What is that overall vision? Like for myself, I want to retire at 50, be financially independent so I can travel for leisure and for mission trips. And like, I put a date on it. I said 50, I put, like start visualizing what it is. And you said, you asked, some people for their vision statements. I do coaching. And when I talk to people, I say, well, what is your vision? Like, if this is your perfect day, you're at where you're trying to go, what would you do today? And they can't even tell me what the day would look like. I
Mm.
mean, you throw out a couple things and I'm like, that's maybe 30 minutes of your day. Like that would be it. I mean, if you told me you would sit on your butt and do absolutely nothing and stare at off into the distance for 8 hours, that's okay. But they didn't even say that. It was just like very unclear. And and for our mindset to line up with what we're doing and what we're trying to grow and what we're trying to build, when we don't even have a vision to line up with, that's like getting in the car and turning on the GPS, but not putting any coordinates and start driving. Like you're not going to get anywhere. I mean,
Hmm.
you might get somewhere, but it might not be where you plan on going because there was no destination or vision laid out for the plan. So it really comes back to get your mission statement, understand what you're doing, what is your vision, what does that good life look like, what does success look like, because it's not about money, but what's your version of success. If you're trying to get something, you got to know what it looks like or have a target, or it's otherwise really hard to hit. So
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I like your point too about giving back. That's actually scientifically backed. There's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. And they did a study and they found that people who volunteered and helped other people, they were generally their mental well-being was increased when they did that. So that is a nice side point to having our purpose. Is our purpose, I want to make a bunch of money? Okay, yeah, go for it. But could we actually write down what our mission statement is? What are we working for? And I like how you brought that out. A lot of guys, they can't say it. They can't put it into words. And if we can't put it into words, we're just driving around without a destination, like you said. I like that. So
mhm.
I think this is a good topic too, because right now the market situation does not look good in a lot of inspectors' eyes. I have a different opinion. I actually have a positive spin on it. I did a podcast a couple of weeks with Beon, and we talked about the positive aspects of it. But a lot of guys are just like, man, this stinks. This is terrible. What's going to happen? Am I going to have to close up shop? Am I going to have to do this? Do you see the market changes as being a bad situation? I think I know I'm goading you on for an answer because I think I know what you're going to say. Or do you view it as an opportunity?
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes to all of it. What I've noticed is, there's people who respond to life, and there's people who just react. Most people just react.
Hmm.
I'm going to have to close shop. That's a reaction. The market's not going the way I want. That's a reaction. These are reactions, that are emotionally driven rather than a response, which is observe the situation and take action. During COVID, since COVID started, back in 2020, this whole pandemic thing, it changed the way a lot of people are doing business. And during that like when that started, from the date of when that started, I think we've created 4 additional companies since then.
Mm. Nice.
So if somebody's stuck on, well, it's not like this anymore. It's a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market. Everybody's waiving inspections. I understand that. And some of these things are challenges, but we always have to keep our eyes open to where's the opportunity, because we can focus on the problem and go nowhere except just being stressed out, and accomplish nothing. Or we can assess the situation and start going, well, where's the opportunity? Maybe it's a different way we market. Maybe it's a different product. Maybe it's opening up to a different industry. That's an exciting one. We've opened up to an industry that we didn't realize that we could. And now we're doing services for this other industry that is not related to home inspection whatsoever.
Hmm.
And we actually created a report for them, a whole system, everything. And we're delivering on them, I think like 5 to 10 jobs a week.
Hmm.
They're a different kind of job, but it's a job. It's something that we created out of, this need to find opportunity. So is this market an opportunity? Yes. Because once it turns back around, I now have more services and more places for leads to come into my business than I had before this all happened. Rather than sitting around and going, well, I can't keep doing what I always did to keep getting that result. That all just dried up, and it ain't going to work anymore. That's back to that like fixed mindset instead of that, victory mindset that's going, well, I can't do that. So what can I do? Right? Where's the opportunity? It's like my management, it's like, you're going to come to me with a problem, come with a solution, always be thinking about what is the opportunity around this condition that we're dealing with, so that it's not about a problem. It's about a change that needs to take place to continue to moving us forward towards the dreams and goals that we've already set out. We're not going to give up on that. I definitely am not. So opportunity is all around us right now. And if you're not seeing it, just got to change the way that you're looking at your surroundings and your conditions or situations.
So I don't want to press you on that one item or whatever service you're offering, because it sounds like maybe you have that close to your chest. But what are some other opportunities that we might help home inspectors see come out of this situation?
Mhm.
So, for instance, the high interest rates, lower mortgage applications, and all that stuff going on.
Well, like one that I've seen a lot of people pushing, and we're pushing right now too, is pre-listing inspections.
Hmm.
Every time I talk to inspection companies, they're often like, yeah, we don't do a lot of those. Why not? And how can you? We've done about 8 to 10% by volume pre-listing, and our goal for this year is to double that. We're going to try to figure out how to double it. Because if you think about it, yes, it's a seller's market, which means as the demand starts to shift like it is right now, houses are starting to sit on the market a little bit longer. They're not getting as many offers right out the gate, which means now sellers have to compete with other sellers. So how do they do that? Give more information up front, build more trust with your buyers, be, more open about the condition of the home by hiring a third party to determine what the condition is. So now the buyer can feel more confident to go over asking price, because I know that it needs a roof, but I'm ready to budget for that, rather than I don't know what it needs, but I'm going to overpay. And then when I get in there, I'm going to get serious buyer's remorse and realize I got to dish out another 30K on top of the 50K I already spent. They're stressed out and scared. That little report that's done for the seller that they disclose, I mean, it now builds trust with the buyer and the seller. It limits the liability of the seller that they didn't disclose something. And it actually limits the liability of the listing agent and the buyer's agent all at the same time, which means it's a win-win for everybody. So there's something, if you're not doing it or you're not talking about it, not marketing it, start talking about it. There are people who will appreciate it, and it just comes down to like how you market it and who you're targeting to get that service out there, and the awareness that you're offering it and what it can do, like the benefits for that transaction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, because a large portion of my inspection company's business is pre-listing inspections. But once 2020 hit, it dropped down to a very small percentage. Because why get a pre-listing inspection when you have 10 offers and 48 hours of listing? The only reason you're on there for 48 hours is let all the offers come in. So why do a pre-listing inspection? Now they're starting to come back. Now and I don't see being less inspections being out there, just less buyers. There's already too many buyers, so that means more inventory, a normal set of buyers, and more opportunity plus pre-listing inspections. I agree. Pre-listing inspections are something that we've been missing out on as an industry for the past couple of years.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you did the pre-listing inspection, maybe the buyer waives the inspection, which means everybody who was hoping for the buyer's inspection still gets nothing, and you got an inspection out of it, which means you're actually creating demand. Unlike fighting for the demand that's there, you can't create more market share on the buyer's end. There's only so much market share, and you're getting a cut of that market share. But if you go into the pre-listing, you're actually creating market share.
Yeah. And do you think there's any other kind of opportunities that are home inspection related that we could jump into?
Definitely ancillary services. I know some guys want to be like, well, we're just generalists. We just stick to the home inspection, especially like in chats about sewer, not to pick sewer in particular, but most people do radon because it's pretty easy if that's, an issue in your area. A lot of people jump on radon, but sewer and mold and maybe even termite are other ones that are in need. Some areas people even do septic tanks, but a lot of them are not high ticket items to get involved with. When I bought my first camera, it cost more than the ones that I use today. I like the ones I use now even better than the one that I first bought. But it was like 11 grand to buy the whole setup with a locator. But I went out there and started doing the sewer camera inspections in the first year from about starting in May until the end of the year, I brought in 40K,
Hmm.
which means, yeah, $11,000 is a lot of money to put up front, but to make an additional 40K, that's almost 4 times on my investment. And I actually financed it, which means it paid for itself. I never paid anything out of pocket. It always brought in the revenue to pay for itself. And same with mold. A lot of people are like, well, I don't know, might be a deal killer, well, no. Mold, there are people who are interested. There's a lot that won't be, but there are those who are. And then on the backside, there's ways you can monetize things too by building relationships. And we were doing free mold estimates for our clients. And when they would accept them, they were already pre-approved with another company, and we get 10% kickback on that. So now we were pushing mold remediation onto another company and getting 10% of these jobs. So there's so many opportunities in what we're already doing today. And the question to be asking yourself is, how do I leverage the client base that I already have? Because getting new clients, that's the hardest client to get. The one that already knows you, likes you, and trusts you, that's the easiest one to make a sale to. So how do you increase your ticket price? Maybe if you didn't get more inspections, but you got an extra $100 per inspection, hey, 100 inspections and an extra $100 right there. It's an extra 10 grand that you didn't really have to do a whole lot to get. So back to that, where's the opportunity? There's always opportunities around us. If we already have realtors referring us, they like us, then that means they trust us. And all the services we offer, their clients are going to trust using us for those clients instead of giving that work away to somebody else.
Yeah, agree totally. Because I've always said that ancillary inspections, that's where the money's at. That's where we're going to make the most at. And buyers are going to start to be a little bit more cautious now that the market is starting to change. So now instead of saying just get the home inspection done and get out of here in 3 days, well, I don't want to end up like my cousin who bought a house sight unseen and overpaid for it. Let's do that sewer scope. You know what? Do the whole septic inspection. Let's do mold. Let's do everything else. And yeah, we can increase the bottom line that way. So let me ask you this. So let's pretend, Ishvan, that I am the guy sitting at home in front of my computer, waiting for somebody to send me an email for an inspection. I'm not getting calls, and I've been at this for a year, and it's just not working. What are some practical things that we can do to change our mindset and accomplish our goals? We already talked about having purpose and, having that mission statement, so to speak. What are some other practical things that I can do in that situation?
So are we talking about personal development or are we talking about within the business to develop the business?
Let's do both. What do you think? Because I don't think they separate from each
Awesome.
other, to be honest with you.
Awesome. I'll get into some like no cost, low cost things that somebody could be doing in their business. But to start off with personally, especially right now where we may be struggling or we're going, man, the market isn't what I want. And then you're having that personal struggle internally, focus on personal development. Even if it's just listening to like Tony Robinson's or something, like something that you gotta like, you gotta start hearing something like something that's going to pump you up and motivate you, whoever it is that you hear that you like that. Maybe it's a preacher, or sermon, whatever it is.
Or a
Keep
podcast like
focusing on
Inspector
that.
Toolbelt Talk.
And like a podcast, exactly. Start focusing on the places that you can keep focusing on development rather than dwelling within the situation that you're in. So you want change, you have to change. Everybody's always like, man, I wish this would change. And if the world would change and if these people would change and the government and whatever, why don't you be the change? Let's start right here. And that's the most powerful thing we can do is start, changing ourselves. So focus on personal development, especially right now. If you got that time, I'd pick up a book. We probably all have a book or two sitting on our shelf that we've told ourselves we know that we would benefit from if we read that book, but we haven't read it. Right now is a good time. Pick it up, start reading it. Never stop building up yourself and the value that you have to bring to the table when you're in a conversation with a client or a potential referral partner that could refer you. Always be bringing it, value. And the only way you can do that is increasing the value that I have. So I have to continue to pour into myself. And that alone, just being in a networking environment where I'm sitting having a conversation with somebody at a golf tournament or a presentation that I sponsored, I might be able to go, I was reading the other day that and that person's like, oh my God, that was so powerful. Thank you so much. And now they're in a conversation tomorrow with somebody going, hey, a good home inspector? Oh yeah, I had this great conversation with this guy. You should call him. He's a really cool guy. I had a great, I learned a lot from him. And your conversation had nothing to do with home inspection, but he got value out of it, so let's bring value. And we can only do that by continuing to build ourselves up. And that also gets us away from focusing on those problems and learning how to focus on the opportunities that are sitting right in front of our face. And the reality is all of us have opportunities that are right there. It's just learning how to see them, changing the way we see things and the mindset about the things around us. So that's one personal. And with business, if you're sitting there, I'd say start making some phone calls and start writing some postcards. That's just basic right there. You can do emails, but emails are going to get a really low response.
Mm-hmm.
So the email's cool, but tie it in with something else. Maybe the agents that you are still working with that you can see that are doing well, keep building those relationships, make sure you don't lose those good agents, call them, check in on them, write them a postcard. Look in your in your CRM, if you're whatever software you're using to manage your clients that you're emailing your reports out of, go in there and look at your agents and start looking at all the ones that have been pretty good but haven't worked with you for a while, and just give them a call. Hey, how you been? Just want to check in with you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you got clients. You do great. That's awesome. Well, love to see you sometime. If you want to have coffee, catch up. Don't try to sell them. Just catch up with them, see how they're doing. Have the conversation and make sure that, maybe they're just having a hard time or they're in between offers and they just haven't called you because of that. But now you're top of mind because you've reached out to them. They're going to want to connect with you. So it doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. Postcard, if you already got some cards in your office, it's going to cost you like 40 cents, 43 cents a stamp. Send it out. Don't sell. Just wanted to connect with you, see how you're doing, wishing you the best year this year, and or go on social media, see what they're doing and congratulate them on something. Those are really simple things, but they're meaningful touches. If you're just doing an email or a newsletter that's just generic and, hey, we added all these extra services, maybe that's good. It's let them know about a new service. That's one idea. But what about the one that builds the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did over, like when COVID hit, I changed all my messages that I was doing to my agents, and it started becoming about, hey, here's something really cool to share with your client. Hey, here's a really cool article I saw. Hey, here's something of value that I think would help you as a realtor get more, help them get what they want. And out of that, you're going to see a huge return, and you'll find out too, somebody just started seeing another home inspector. Well, it's an opportunity to go, I think that's great. I understand you're doing that to take care of your clients. Could I ask you a question? What is it that inspection company does that we didn't do for your clients? And now they may say stuff that you might not want to hear, but honestly, that stuff's gold. That
Mm-hmm.
is an opportunity to go, okay, they didn't like the way I did this, or I took too long getting the report to them. Okay, I can fix that, which means now I can improve my service and market how I've improved it. And it's just, once again, the opportunity on top of opportunity. And this is the way my brain always works too. When I see something new, I'm just like, ooh, I could do this and this and that. And it's like those 7 years in the woods. I learned a lot about food, and somebody would introduce a new like what was it? Acorn squash. I was like, oh my gosh. And then like my brain was just like, I could do this, I could do that. And it's like, what are the things that you already have access to? Like the list of agents that are already in your system that you could put to use and start building relationships with them, so that when they do have a house to sell, or they have a client who's buying a house, they're going to call you, because you're the one that stayed in touch with them. You're the one that didn't try to sell them every time. You're the one that worked on building a relationship with them so that you could get the whole next 5-7 years of their career worth of referrals to their buyers.
Man, that's good stuff, Ishpan. And I really like the point about not selling hard. I've always said that you shouldn't sell. You should build a relationship, and then that sells it for itself. Great stuff. Fantastic. Having you on, Ishpan, was well worth it. I'm really glad our mutual friend Coy made the connection. And Coy, you better listen to this podcast. I've mentioned your name like 5 times now. But wonderful stuff. Uh, Ishpan's book, The Victory Mindset, that's the title, correct? And
Yes, the victory mindset.
and we can get that off of Amazon, wherever we want to get it. But look up Istvan. Um, Changing our mindset really does affect our business and helps us to grow our business, but also to grow it in a way where, as Istvan said, we find purpose. So thank you so much, Istvan.
It was a pleasure. Appreciate being able to be here on the show and share with your audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one.